The saga of the Woods of Jordan is honestly one of the most interesting things that I've seen here on my 4 years plus on YouTube. And he has essentially progressed from a diehard fundamentalist Christian who was quite austere in his beliefs and very, very in your face about it, to softening, and then eventually going from fundamentalist to more moderate stance to, for a short time at least, he was a professing agnostic atheist. However, now he seems to be going in the other direction, in which he is considering, or is already scheduled, to become a member of the Mormon Church. And I have to say that I'm disappointed, not because he's decided to, go to another team. He was on our team, now he's on their team. But what really disappoints me about this is that emotion, it seems to me, is winning out over a more, I don't even want to say rational or facts-based. It's all too easy to paint this dichotomy between, facts and reason versus faith and unreason. But it definitely seems to me that these people have managed to push the right buttons in order to get him to buy into what they're selling. And I'll just come right out and say that I think that if religion had to stand on the merits of their propositions, whether they were true, false, or likely to be true or false, it would vanish overnight. Its power is psychological, in the ability to suck people in, push their buttons, keep them coming back, keep them believing. And Jordan, in his video explaining why he decided to become a Mormon, essentially said because it just felt right. And my challenge to Jordan, or anybody in this situation, is to say, okay, take a step back from the situation. Maybe go a few days or a week or longer, if you can, in which you sever all personal connections with any member of the church. Don't go to their church, don't talk to any of them. Just think and pray, if that's what you want to do, and feel on your own. Because when they're right there, they're able to have that immediate emotional impact, give you that feeling of acceptance and warmth, and do all these things that push your buttons. But how do you feel when you take a step back from that? A lot of other people have suggested this. I've not watched numerous video responses to him. They were all very good. But he does seem to be jumping in, head first, without really taking the time to truly process this. And I wonder why. He seems, the thing that is bothering me about this is that he went from an open, honest, open-minded person to now he seems to be saying, okay, this is how I feel at this moment, and you either accept me or you don't, and he's shutting down to criticism. Now, it's all well and great. He should take in all these considerations about whether or not Mormonism is true into consideration. But I think more important in that is, if you're jumping into it because it makes you feel a certain way, then shouldn't you put that feeling to the test through introspection, through taking a step back and saying, gee, is this really how I feel, or is this how I'm being influenced to feel? I'm always reminded of things like Joseph Campbell talking about one of his colleagues and friends who had been in a concentration camp. And this friend had told him that at one point the people in his labor camp were brought to one of Hitler's rallies. And it was such a powerful experience that even though he was, one of Hitler's victims, that he couldn't help but get caught up in everything, and almost, you have to, force himself from not raising his arm to hail Hitler. That's how powerful, emotionally, and how open to suggestion you can become in something like a gigantic rally. And then you turn around and then you see you know, these crusades for Christ or whatever in the big stadiums with music and sound and thousands of people and singing and all of this excitement, and then you say, oh, the altar call, and all these people come down to the altar, and you have to compare that to Nuremberg, or even on a more benign scale, just a rock concert, right? It's the same psychological trick. Cult members, when they go to recruit people, they'll love bomb people. So, oh, we love you, we want you to feel accepted. They want to tell you this is what you've been searching for. But at the same time, they know that if you have time to process what they're saying, that things will fizzle out. You'll take a step back. You'll feel differently. You'll rationalize about it. You'll put it in perspective. So they try and pressure you into acting upon your feelings immediately, because they have a limited time window in which to suck you in. They can't keep it going forever, so they want you to commit right away. It's limited. There's a great video about this where they say, it's a limited time offer. You have to act now. Your salvation is at risk, and that sort of thing. To me, it seems like Jordan is still going through a transitionary phase. He spent his entire life wrapped up in a belief, and it still has a powerful pull on him, although he couldn't quite believe it in the way he did before. And so he's perfectly vulnerable to these sorts of things where people are saying, oh, well, you're disillusioned with this. Well, we have something different to offer you, and these are the sort of people that it works on. I'm gonna make another video about Dawa Films, little Muslim recruiting video, in which they're trying to make all we're just like the other monolithic faiths. We just take this different perspective, and it seems like like the whole video is set up to appeal to people who they have a background in Christianity, or Judaism or whatever. It's like, don't like the Abrahamic gods? Well, try Islam. These are the people who are vulnerable. If somebody comes up to me and says, pray about it, how does this make you feel? Ask God to tell you it's true. I'd laugh in their face. I'd say, what do my emotions have to do with it? Because I see the magic trick. It's like my little nephew when he asked me, well, how do they saw a woman in half? It's like, no, that's an illusion, Philip, okay? I see the psychological tools they use to pull people in, and so religion has no emotional power over me, and that's probably the majority of the reason why I can't get sucked into it. It's not because I know contradictions in the Bible. I mean, that certainly helps on the intellectual side, but again, I don't think this is really intellectual at the end of the day. It really comes down to people sort of waking up to the ways in which they're being controlled is too broad and sinister of a term, but they're having their buttons pushed, and the sort of the emotional cycles that you go through. I mean, simply watch any deconversion story. You listen to, Dan Brown, or Dan Baker. Dan Brown's the guy who wrote that stupid book. Or Lovingdoubt's video series about losing her faith. Most of these people, it's not merely a matter of, oh, there's contradictions in the Bible, okay, show's over. It's an emotional process. And to me, the reason that it doesn't grip me is because I recognize that. I recognize their tricks. I recognize when they're trying to make me feel accepted or loved or whatever as a tactic to get their foot in the door, and trying to use sensory overload and all of these other things. I see it. I don't fall for it. It's just that simple. But Jordan seems to be at a vulnerable spot where he's starting to intellectually come to grips with it, but he hasn't emotionally come to grips with the emotional underpinnings of religion. He hasn't dealt with that, so he was in a vulnerable spot, and I think these people moved in and took advantage of that. And honestly, Jordan, I would really hope that you would take the time to just step back from all of this. I'm not saying that you should go, okay, this is dead wrong, and I'll pull no punches saying that I think Mormonism is complete bullshit. No, I have no qualms about saying that. But you're going to have to come to realize for yourself, through introspection and taking a step back, why it is that you've come to the position that you have. And it may not be for the reasons that you feel that it is right now, that God has showed you the light or whatever. You may come to feel quite differently in a little while. So that's my advice that you can take or leave, is to just take a step back, man. That's all I gotta say.